Well, Auburn has kicked off their coaching search. Look, if it must be done eventually, it must be done immediately. And they did it immediately. How does this affect Alabama? Let's talk about it.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me, Jimmy Stein. Well, that's normally him, but today he's actually moving. He's got a big day. He's got a lot of things going on. And so instead of not doing a podcast, I decided it'd be best because there's been so much going on that we talk a little bit about this Auburn coaching situation, how it affects Alabama going forward, also a few other topics that are still out there. So this may be a bit of abbreviated podcast. I want to let you know in advance, but I do want to thank LinkedIn for being our sponsor for this particular podcast. I'll talk about LinkedIn in just a bit. But of course, news of the last 24 hours is Bryan Harsin's dismissal. And of course, Auburn also hired Mississippi State's AD. So what does this mean? First of all, Cadillac Williams being the interim head coach is interesting. I think that's almost just sort of here's a lifetime achievement award, because I think it would have been best to name Zach Etheridge the coach. It seems like he would have more experience, actually had the title, but I don't think that's going to cause any consternation or whatever. And I don't think any of it's going to have an effect on this year. I still suspect Mississippi State may actually beat Auburn worse this coming up week. Now, I think that's fine for Auburn fans. If I were an Auburn fan, I would be happy about this because this season is lost. It's over. It's done. All you can do is have some hope now. And the only way that you were going to have hope was to get rid of the cancer in your program. And that cancer was Bryan Harsin. Whether or not you thought he was treated unfairly, it doesn't matter. He was not a good coach. He didn't want to be there. That was blatantly obvious. So I think Auburn made the right decision to fire him, and they probably made it too late. Now, this season is rather lost for them. I believe that. I think they're still going to get some more whoopings coming up, and we'll all revel in that as Alabama fans. Now, what do they do next? Who are they going to hire? Are you the names out there? Your Lane Kiffins, your Deion Sanders, Hugh Freeze, Jeff Grimes, Matt Rule. All the normal names are out there. I personally think that at first I didn't think this would happen. Now I'm beginning to think it's going to be Lane Kiffin eventually. I do wholeheartedly believe, based on some conversations, that Lane Kiffin would prefer the Alabama job if he could. I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. Alabama's more high profile. It's an easier job in a sense because you don't have to play Alabama and Georgia every year. Auburn, you do. And frankly, I think his path to the playoff may actually be a little easier at Ole Miss. But I think if Auburn can come up with the right amount of money, and if their NIL situation is as good as been reported lately, or in better shape than it should be, it's still not at Alabama, Georgia levels like that, but I think that it's better than people thought it was, then I think Lane Kiffin would certainly at least entertain the idea. Now, Deion Sanders is very interesting. There have been some, I think one guy wrote an article from an Auburn site about comparing Deion Sanders coming to Auburn would be like Nick Saban to Alabama. Let's go ahead and put that to rest. There is not going to ever be another Nick Saban. We acknowledge that as Alabama fans, knowing that when we say that, we're also admitting we will never see results like what he's gotten again. So essentially what we're saying as Alabama fans is this is the best it's ever going to get. So we'll never see this again. I'm fine admitting that. There's never going to be another Nick Saban. Forget it. It's over. It's done. That he is a different animal from every other person on this planet and every other coach on this planet. So please don't compare him to, or any future coach, to Nick Saban. Not Deion Sanders, not anybody else, because it doesn't matter. Deion Sanders, yeah, he'll be able to relate to recruits. There's no doubt about it. He's fun. He's got swagger. All that stuff's cool. It's very cool. But he's not going to have the organizational skills because nobody does. And Saban's built so differently from every other human being on this planet. And happy birthday. Happy belated birthday, by the way, Nick Saban. Um, but Deion would be interesting, and I saw some Auburn folks that are really, really pushing for him, and I think that that could be interesting. I think he would certainly put a dent in some recruiting. He wouldn't damage recruiting; he would put a dent in it. I think there would be some guys that would certainly turn to Auburn almost immediately. And again, hey, that's just going to happen. Auburn was run by a complete. Um, I don't know how to say. He was completely apathetic towards recruiting. Was Bryan Harsin? So yeah, Auburn's going to recruit better whoever they hire next because that guy will go out and see some high schools and things like that. He won't worry about watching his son on Friday night play high school football. Yeah, so that recruiting is going to get better for Auburn no matter what. I don't think Deion is a super fitted Auburn. I think he is from a culture standpoint because look, we can say I'm trying to say this as nicely as I can. Auburn seems like the younger, hipper school. Alabama's a little more old school. Even our young people seem more old school, which is fine. That's what our culture is. We're just a little more old school. We're not going to change uniforms. We're not going to brag about orange face masks or changing uniforms every single game. Or we're just going to do what we do, and because it's been successful, it works for us. Auburn is one of those schools that's going to, they're going to surf swag, and they're going to, if Deion were to get there, they'd all start wearing funky sunglasses or whatever. I mean, that's just their side is work sometimes too. I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying they are more new school. We're more old school. So Deion would work there, I think, in the sense for recruiting. Overall, in terms of coaching, you're not going to destroy Georgia. You're not going to destroy Alabama's recruiting. You're not going to destroy LSU's recruiting. Texas A&M, for all the mess they're in right now, they're still getting a lot of 5-stars, and they already have a lot of 5-stars on the roster. Whether Jimbo's there or not, they're going to have a crew. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like Auburn's still going to have the uphill battle. But Deion's an interesting take. Then, of course, the one that I think they really could end up with is Matt Rule. I think he would be a good hire. I don't know that he's championship level, but I think he's a good hire. And I think that he could maybe right the ship for the next guy at the very least. Hugh Freeze, I just don't think is happening. I just don't see that happening. So I'm not going to go into that much more. And then there's Jeff Grimes, who I don't really know what to say. I think if Auburn were to hire him, it'd be a gigantic disappointment, at least on the front end. He may turn out to be a fantastic hire. I think on the front end, it would be a gigantic disappointment for most Auburn fans. All right, let me talk a little bit about LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager in your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. We use LinkedIn Jobs here at Robinson Iron. I know some other companies here in Alexander City that use LinkedIn Jobs, as well as companies in Birmingham, because they are the absolute best. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and helps you find them faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I want to talk really quickly about Alabama hoops. Alabama's first game is this coming Monday. They're going to play a team that they will certainly beat, but I'm going to implore everybody to show up. Please show up. Please get there. Please do it. I feel like this is a big year for Alabama in terms of support. Look, Auburn's a thing. Kentucky's always going to be a thing. And some of the rest of the SEC is getting better. Texas A&M is certainly getting better. I think LSU's getting better, addition by subtraction or subtraction by addition, however you say that. I can't remember. It is addition by subtraction, isn't it? Ole Miss is not awful. This league is just good. And we are recruiting at a very nice pace right now. I don't want to give Nate Oates any reason to leave. I like Nate Oates a lot. I think he likes being at Alabama. I think he's got a golden opportunity here. But we do need to show up as fans. We need to be there to support him. I know Coleman is not my favorite place in the world either. It's fine. It's not a great facility. We need a new one. We all recognize that. But for now, let's show up. Let's try to get there. We've got a game Monday and we've got a game next Friday. I will definitely be at the next Friday game. I'm going to try my best to be there Monday. By the way, the last time we went to a game, some people recognized Jimmy and me from this podcast, and y'all stopped and talked to us for a second. If you ever do recognize us, if you're one of the ones that watches this and you recognize us and want to talk to us, do it. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear anything you have to say. So if you're at the basketball game and you see me, hey, talk to me. Be happy to. I might have my 6-year-old daughter with me. So maybe she'll talk to you. I don't know. But yeah, I just want to put the bulletin out there that we need to show up for this game. I'm concerned about Alabama basketball support. Football just washes over everything here, and it should. Football is the most important thing. It's the moneymaker. But basketball is really good. Even last year when we were disappointed, even last year when we had some problems, even last year when it felt like something was really off and this team just couldn't get it together, we went to the NCAA tournament. That's something. And in basketball, that's what you're measured on. How many times you go to the tournament? It's not necessarily winning. Winning the SEC in 2020 was nice. Winning the SEC tournament that same year, very nice. But really, I would give up those two things if we had made the Final Four. No doubt about it. I'd give up those two things if we'd made the Final Eight. No doubt about it. That's the way I look at it. I think it's all about how you do in the NCAA tournament. And maybe a lot of people don't feel that way, but I do. I think that's how coaches are judged. I mean, if you win the SEC in basketball 4 straight years, but you're bounced in the first round of the SEC of the NCAA tournament every year, guess what? You might be getting fired because that's what counts. So you just want to have that hope going into the tournament. And my issues with the NCAA tournament overall are well documented. No sense going into that. This is just a public cry for you to show up to these basketball games. If you have the means, if you're available, because this team's going to be good, you're going to love Brandon Miller. You're going to love Noah Clowney. I know you've been reading about them, but if you hadn't seen them, I'm telling you, you're going to love these guys. They're really, really good. So seriously, go check out the basketball team. All right, need to tell you about BetOnline right now. BetOnline, of course, is where the game starts. It is the best place to go to get that bet in. Hey, I bet on BetOnline last night. I took the over in the Cincinnati-Cleveland game, won it. Also took Cleveland, won it. Also took who did I take last night? It was whoever played the Rockets. I can't remember. If it was somebody bad. I won it. Doesn't matter because I won it. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and all sports. And, of course, the new basketball season getting kicked off. Find the latest player developments, teams, matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every single sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. So last segment here in this solo run for a podcast. I know it's always better with Jimmy here. We bounce ideas off each other. It's a lot better, but thank you for bearing with me on this particular one. I appreciate you guys a ton. Alabama, LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, the next 2 games. Look, it just got me thinking. So we traveled to Texas, first game. We also traveled to Arkansas. Again, this is the best Arkansas team in a while. I mean, I think it's better than last year's team even. We traveled to Tennessee, who could make the argument to be the number 1 team in the country. We traveled to LSU, who is now a ranked team, who beat up on a top 10 LSU Ole Miss team 40-7, not 40-7, whatever it was. 47 was the LSU Tennessee score. They beat them up 40 something to whatever the heck it was. They beat them badly. And then we play Ole Miss, and this is the best Ole Miss team we've seen in a while. So it just got me thinking: is this the toughest road schedule that you can remember for an Alabama team? It is for me. I don't remember a road slate like this just about ever. Usually, if you mix in a game, if you say, okay, you're at Ole Miss, okay, whatever. We're at Ole Miss, not a big whoop. Ole Miss is good. That's going to be tough. They're also coming off a bye week. LSU coming off a bye week. We are too, but that should be noted. We played Texas at their place in the grueling, hot, scorching Austin heat at 11 o'clock in the morning. And they obviously spent all summer preparing for us. Luckily, their quarterback got knocked out, or else we probably lose. I don't have any problem saying that. We played Tennessee when they're at their height of their game. They're as hot as they could possibly be. We play an Arkansas team when we lose our quarterback. That hurts a lot. Um, this Alabama LSU game is going to be at night. Jimmy and I talked about the Alabama LSU stats over the last several years. So night games don't really scare Alabama as a general rule. I mean, and as somebody pointed out on the podcast, history doesn't matter in this. I think history does matter. I think when you have a mindset of, hey, we just don't lose in Baton Rouge, I think that helps you in the long term. How else do you explain it? Because a lot of teams that should have beaten Alabama lost to Alabama when it comes to Baton Rouge and LSU. But I think this is the toughest road slate we've ever had as a squad. So look, if Alabama's able to get by LSU this weekend, and I think they will, if Alabama's able to get by Ole Miss the next week, and right now I'm on the fence about that. I think Lane is going to pull out every single stop he can, and I don't like the matchup of Lane Kiffin versus our defense. Frankly, I just don't. I think he's going to spend a lot of time trying to make this right. So, yeah, but let's say we get those two. Even with one loss, I don't see how you put Alabama anywhere lower than number 3 in the country. Even with one loss, and I don't care if other teams are undefeated. I think we will have obviously played the best schedule of anybody. The only loss we will have had is based off the most poorly officiated game that I've seen in years, and the fact that we missed a field goal and they hit a field goal even though it was blocked against what could arguably be the number 1 team in the country. Meanwhile, the one other thing I want to talk about is who do you pull for this weekend? Jimmy and I will talk about it later. Who do you pull for, Georgia or Tennessee? Look, we got to win out regardless, right? If we lose a game, we're out of the playoffs. So I'm going to pull for Tennessee. And the reason I'm going to pull for Tennessee is I want to rematch them again. I'm not saying Georgia, Alabama's stale or anything like that. And I'm not saying I'm scared of Georgia. I'm saying I would rather take my chances getting revenge on the Volunteers and having another shot to beat them and start a new streak. I think that would if Alabama and Tennessee play again, I think Alabama wins the game. I really 100% believe that. I respect Tennessee. I think they're a great team. I think if we play them again, we beat them. So I'm just interested who all you guys want to see win this weekend. Some people still have this seething hatred for Tennessee, and some people just don't want to play Georgia anymore. Not because it's stale, again, not because you're scared, just maybe something new in the SEC championship game. And if things bounce exactly right or exactly wrong, you could see Ole Miss taking on Tennessee in the SEC championship game. And hide your mustard bottles, y'all. Well, look, that's going to do it for today's solo podcast. Thanks for bearing with me. I did the best I could do by myself. I really enjoy it more when Jimmy's here. I bet you do too. But for now, this is all I got. So thank you guys so much, and we will be back soon. Roll Tide.